Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS English, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. A very good morning and welcome to the daily Hindu news analysis. So let's begin today's discussion by first looking at the topics that we are going to discuss. From the Delhi edition of the Hindu, I have chosen 10 important articles. There are 3 columns that require a detailed analysis both for your prelims and mains, and a number of small articles which are important for the prelims. As we have promised, our goal is to make this channel a one-stop destination for all your current affairs needs. So the idea is to cover as many important articles as possible so that you don't have to go back and read the newspaper again. So if you guys are benefiting from our initiative, do support us with your likes and comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And also, those who are interested in a free counseling session to prepare for 2026 UPSC Civil Services exam, you can register by using the link provided in the description box below. There is a Google form which is provided in the description box. So if you can fill out your details, our team will get in touch with you and you can avail a free counseling session. So let's start with the discussion by looking at this important article from page number 8. This article deals with Delhi's air pollution nightmare, which has become a recurring phenomena during every winter season. Every year, when the monsoon retreats and when it is followed by the onset of the winter in northwestern India, particularly in the Delhi NCR region, we witness the occurrence of deadly air pollution and smog conditions, which poses a very significant health risk. So today, let's understand what are the causes contributing to the deteriorating air quality in Delhi. I'm sure all of you would have heard that stubble burning is one of the primary contributors. So let's understand what is stubble burning, how does it contribute to air pollution in Delhi, and are there any other factors which are also contributing to the very poor air quality in Delhi? So let's begin with the context in which the article has been published by the Hindu. The Hindu points out that just the other day, PM 2.5 levels, that is particulate matter 2.5, which is one of the significant air pollutants which is measured, its concentration level has gone up significantly, crossing the 300 mark, which means the air in Delhi has become extremely dangerous. Now, this is even before the Diwali season. So one can imagine, once winter sets in post Diwali, you will see a significant spike in the concentration level of deadly pollutants, especially the 8 major air pollutants which are tracked under the Air Quality Index, which is brought out by the Central Pollution Control Board. Along with carbon monoxide and oxides of nitrogen, PM 2.5, PM 10, and other major pollutants, including ground level ozone, are tracked in real time and updated under the Air Quality Index. It helps in determining the quality of air that we are breathing in our cities. And especially Delhi NCR region suffers from very poor indicators, especially during the winter months. Just look at this screenshot that I have taken today morning from the website of Central Pollution Control Board. Look at the air quality in Delhi over the last few days. For most of the indicators, such as PM 2.5, PM 10, ozone, NO2, SO2, carbon monoxide, etc., just look at the minimum maximum range and what is the reported range over the last couple of days. You will see that into a wide range of health related problems, from respiratory disorders like asthma to other pulmonary conditions. It can even pose a life-threatening risk eventually by triggering cancers and other cardiovascular diseases as well. So, according to studies, India is losing a number of people, primarily due to air pollution. And if you look at the Delhi NCR region, there is a specific reason why this region gets significantly affected by air pollution during every winter. So let's go a little beyond the article as well. Let's try to bring in a few additional points so that you have a comprehensive, thorough understanding of this topic. Because in the next 2-3 months, there will be repeated articles on this topic. So just by one discussion, I want you to ensure that you are completely prepared and you don't have to repeat the same topic again and again. So when you look at pollution in Delhi NCR region, one prime root cause which is attributed is the menace of stubble burning. So what exactly is stubble burning? To what extent does it contribute to air pollution in Delhi? Stubble burning is the practice of burning the post-harvest stubble which is left behind in the agricultural fields of Punjab, Haryana and other nearby regions, especially in the agrarian states of Punjab and Haryana and also in parts of Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. The farmers who harvest the rice crop and pave the way for the wheat crop, which is a winter crop, they have a very short window which is available for them to clear the stubble of the paddy which is left after the harvest of rice. Because they have to prepare the field, they have a very narrow window available because they have to start sowing the wheat by the time the winter sets in, given that wheat is primarily a winter crop. The problem is farmers don't find easy labor or cheap labor. It will cost them a lot of money, which increases their input cost. And since it's largely manual work to remove the stubble physically, most farmers find a shortcut, which is to set the field on fire and clear the stubble as quickly as possible so that post-harvest they can prepare the field for sowing wheat to prepare for the next cropping cycle. So this practice, which is quite widespread in northern northwestern India, releases significant quantity of air pollutant, particularly PM 2.5 and PM 10, along with carbon monoxide and other air pollutants. So stubble burning in these areas surrounding Delhi definitely is a significant contributor, without a doubt. Several studies have clearly established that the wind coming from Punjab and Haryana does bring in the pollutants, the deadly particulate matter. It concentrates and accumulates over Delhi and settles, leading to the deadly toxic condition that we experience during the winter months. But the point is stubble burning the only reason? To what extent does stubble burning really contribute? Are there other sources of pollution as well? That is what we need to understand. See, according to the writer, stubble burning has been largely blamed as the only possible reason for the deadly condition in Delhi. This is largely a misconception because studies and data shows that stubble burning does play a role, but a very small role, because there are other factors, other root causes which are contributing to significant pollution in Delhi. Now, if you look at some recent studies that were conducted, according to IIT Kanpur and IIT Delhi, which worked with the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology in Pune, they've established that stubble burning contributes to around 22 to 35% as far as reduction of air quality is concerned in Delhi NCR region. So this is definitely a significant contributor. But other than stubble burning, there are many other factors which account for the toxic conditions in Delhi's air. So if we get distracted by the media narrative and focus just on stubble burning, we will ignore the larger problem that is present. Definitely, the wind which is carrying the particulate matter from Punjab and Haryana and other parts of northwestern India is definitely a significant contributor, but its overall contribution is somewhere between 22 to 35%. It varies depending on each week of October, November, December and January. So definitely there is a correlation. There is a direct correlation, a very strong correlation. If more fires are detected, farm fires are detected in Punjab and Haryana, this will automatically lead to very poor air quality in Delhi NCR region. And the opposite is also true. If authorities manage to curb the farm fires by imposing and enforcing the law and by spreading awareness amongst the farmers and by creating alternatives to stubble burning, and if those fires go down, we see a positive impact as well on the air quality in Delhi. So there is definitely a strong correlation without a doubt. But the extent to which stubble burning contributes to Delhi's toxic air is just around 22 to 35%. So what is actually happening here? Now, if you look at the data, the studies establish that almost 55% of the contributing factors are coming from outside of Delhi's territorial borders. So more than half of the contributing factors are coming from outside of Delhi, from the neighboring states. So amongst that, stubble burning is one of the contributor, which also means within Delhi, there are many other root causes which are contributing to significant air pollution. So if we have to tackle this menace, we need to address the root causes inside Delhi as well, along with tackling other sources coming from outside of Delhi, including stubble burning. So if you look at the measures implemented, the graded response action plan, which is implemented, it is strictly enforced in order to restrict several economic activities, polluting activities, so that the air quality can be improved. The sources of pollution and various economic activities which contribute to that pollution can be strictly curbed by the authorities through the graded response action plan. In fact, the Supreme Court closely monitors the implementation of these regulations. There is an incremental step-by-step regulation which is enforced by the authorities, which includes the Union Territory of Delhi, the concerned state governments, and the center as well. So there is a dedicated authority which has been created for this purpose to enforce and implement the graded response action plan, which can restrict various polluting economic activities to curb the pollution and try to ease the conditions in Delhi. So amongst all the measures which are taken, one of the measures is definitely to incentivize the farmers to not burn the stubble, to not set fire to the farm fields, and rather provide them machinery through which they can quickly clear the stubble, or ensure that the stubble is diverted towards biofuel industry as one of the feedstock, which can generate additional income to the farmers, which acts as an incentive. So various methods are being tried out. There are several new technologies being introduced as well, including a new chemical which can quickly decompose the stubble. So such methods are being promoted, awareness is being spread, and strict penalties are being imposed on those farmers who violate the law and still set fires to the farm. Similarly, for other polluting industries, it could be vehicles and transportation, polluting industries, especially metallurgical industries, thermal power plants, construction activity. All these activities are strictly regulated under the graded response action plan. But despite these measures, we don't see an improvement in Delhi's toxic air. So if you look at the data again, from Punjab alone, the data shows that in 2018, there were as many as 17,000 plus farm fires that were lit during the winter season. In Haryana, this number was also in several thousands. Now, how do we know exactly how many farm fires are lit? That's because today there are satellites which are capable of picking up such fires which are active. There are Earth observation satellites carrying infrared payloads, which can easily detect the heat signature caused by a fire and determine the exact location and spread of such farm fires. So according to data back in 2018, before these strict measures were implemented, we were recording thousands and thousands of farm fires in Punjab and Haryana. Now, because of the strict action taken by the authorities and greater awareness and better enforcement of the regulations, we have seen a significant drop in the number of farm fires. The data again shows that in Punjab, the number of farm fires has dropped to just around 1,749 in this year. In Haryana, we have seen a 50% reduction in farm fires over the last 4 years. So this is indeed a significant development. The authorities have been able to curb and reduce the farm fires quite significantly. But despite this, there is no breathing space in Delhi. So what does that tell you? Can someone answer this in the comments? By looking at this data and analysis, what can you infer from this? If stubble burning has gone down significantly by more than 50% in Haryana, by almost 70% in Punjab, and still the toxic air persists in Delhi during winter, what can you infer from this data and analysis? Can you tell me in the comments? Anyone? See, it basically tells us that there are still other sources of air pollution, both inside Delhi and outside Delhi, which are contributing to this deadly condition. So that is the reason why one should not get obsessed with just stubble burning. We should pay adequate attention to other root causes and sources as well. Now, this is where you need to understand the unique geography of Delhi and the unique wind pattern that is present around Delhi, especially during the winter months. As the southwest monsoon retreats and there is an onset of the winter, the air condition around Delhi becomes very still. There is no movement of wind, and this unique condition is largely responsible for accumulation of the pollutants, which eventually settles down around Delhi NCR region, contributing to the deadly smog condition, including the creation of ground level ozone. Because see, when you have strong wind currents, it will basically dissipate all the pollutants, especially the particulate matter, PM 2.5 and 10. It will not accumulate in one place when strong wind currents are present. It will basically flush out all the pollutants and disperse them, thus creating a better air quality. But in Delhi during the winter months, the unique condition is that as winter sets in after the retreat of the monsoon, we see very still wind conditions that allows the pollutants to accumulate over Delhi. Since the winds from Punjab and Haryana are pushing all pollutants towards Delhi, and within Delhi there is no strong wind current, it's largely still winds. So the pollutants will accumulate and they start descending. They start concentrating at the lower levels, leading to this deadly condition. So within Delhi, there are many deadly sources which are aggravating the problem, especially the industries and thermal power plants present in Delhi and on the outskirts of Delhi. The large vehicle movement and the transportation industry in essence, the trucks, buses, cars, two-wheelers, etc., which guzzle petrol and diesel, right? Many of which are not well maintained, well serviced. They will release significant particulate matter and pollutants, which adds to the problem, right? This even gives rise to ground level ozone. Then you have construction, large scale construction activity. So all these sources are contributing to secondary inorganic aerosols. There is a lot of burning of organic material and biomass as well. For example, the activity of street sweeping, right? That results in accumulation of all the dry leaves and dry biomass, which sometimes is set on fire by the municipal authorities. So biomass burning even by the people, by the local governments, and industrial activity and transportation results in the release of these deadly pollutants, oxides of nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, and they form these complex compounds, secondary inorganic aerosols like ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, which becomes very deadly when it is present in higher concentration. So it is very, very evident from these studies and the data presented in this article that stubble burning is not the only problem. Yes, stubble burning is a significant source, but there are many other contributing factors inside Delhi as well and outside Delhi as well. So if we have to tackle the problem, there has to be a comprehensive solution which can curb these sources of pollution. So the governments are struggling. Every year we are seeing a recurrence of this problem. So that is why you should be prepared for possible questions on this topic. There can be direct prelims questions related to air quality index, graded response action plan, the sources that contribute to Delhi's air pollution. And also there could be a mains practice question. So let's look at this question. What factors contribute to the deterioration of air quality in Delhi during the winter months? How does stubble burning affect PM 2.5 levels? Evaluate. So in this question, there are two separate parts. So when you're writing the answer, you can start with an introduction about the nightmare that is experienced by the people of Delhi NCR during every winter. Try to paint a picture of the toxic levels of the air, right? Try to give some examples that you have read in newspapers to make it more illustrative and engaging. Or you can just talk about the deadly air quality with some data to show how the air quality index often crosses the 300 mark and how this can significantly affect health, how it is a significant health hazard. So that can make for a good introduction. Then in the body, list out the factors, the various factors, and also the percentage to which they are contributing to air pollution in Delhi, a rough percentage. If you don't remember the exact contribution, at least a slight approximate number, like stubble burning contributes around 22 to 35%, right? Within Delhi, around 45% sources are contributing to Delhi's air pollution. 55% pollution is coming from outside of Delhi. So data like that can make your answer more relevant, more engaging and interesting. So point out all the factors that we discussed, and then in the second part of the body, talk about stubble burning contributing to PM 2.5 levels. Why stubble burning continues in Punjab, Haryana and other parts of this region? What measures can be taken? What steps are being implemented to tackle the menace? And then finally conclude your answer. In the conclusion, you can point out that stubble burning is not the only problem. Data clearly shows stubble burning is only part of the problem. There are other sources which are aggravating the problem. You can again present data to show how stubble burning incidents have come down significantly in the last few years. You can point out Punjab and Haryana have significantly reduced the number of active farm fires during the winter months. So which clearly means there are other sources which are continuing to contribute to the deadly air condition in Delhi. So that could make for a good conclusion. So let's see if you have any questions, any doubts based on this topic. Please let me know if you have any specific question. I'll try to take up one or two questions. Islam says, yes, that's what it shows us, the two contrasting factors with regards to geography of a region and pollution. Yes, you're absolutely right. The geography of Delhi, the unique conditions present, actually contributes to this, along with the man-made sources of air pollution. So please let me know if you have any specific question. Sandhya is asking, Mumbai is also witnessing deadly pollution, but the difference is that Mumbai is a coastal state. You're absolutely right. Mumbai is a coastal city. I would correct you there. But yes, sea always has a moderating effect. The sea currents which come in, the wind which comes from the sea will dissipate the pollutants. But sometimes even Mumbai sees deadly air quality condition. Arun Singh is asking, sir, PM 2.5 is more dangerous than PM 10? Yes. PM 2.5 is more fine, more smaller in size. So PM 2.5 is deadlier than PM 10. Because when the fine aerosol particles accumulate in your respiratory tract, your lungs, they block the respiration and it leads to a variety of health hazards. Priyanshu Saxena is asking, what can be the way forward as Delhi government is trying but failing? See, it's not just the Delhi government which is responsible. Even the Central Pollution Control Board, Ministry of Environment and Forest of the central government, the state governments of Punjab, Haryana, UP and Rajasthan, all of them have to work collectively. Collective efforts are needed from the central, state and local authorities. So that is what you can suggest in your answers as well. All right. Now let's look at this important editorial from page number 6. Just the other day, the Supreme Court of India has passed a very important verdict with regard to regulation of liquor. With regard to regulation of liquor, there was a tussle between the center and the states. And the Supreme Court has resolved this issue in favor of the states, thus restoring federal balance as far as center-state relations are concerned. I'll repeat the point. The focus of this editorial is regulation of the liquor industry in the country. I hope you know that liquor is one of the major sources of revenue for our state governments. States are heavily dependent on them. That is one reason why liquor has not been brought under GST. But when I say liquor, there are two types usually. One, of course, the one you might all be familiar with, the one which is potable, the one which is consumed, which has a detrimental health impact, and the other is industrial alcohol, which has a lot of industrial applications. Now, when it comes to regulatory powers of the state and the taxation powers of the state, states had control over both potable and industrial alcohol. But however, the center had passed a law which had pushed industrial alcohol under the center's jurisdiction, bringing it under parliamentary jurisdiction, thus restricting the regulatory powers of the state. So states had opposed this, approached the Supreme Court, and a 9-judge constitution bench has ruled over this matter, and the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the states, pointing out that liquor regulation will come under the states and center should not interfere. Be it potable alcohol which is consumed, which has a deadly health impact, or be it industrial alcohol, states have a primary jurisdiction. That is the interpretation given by the Supreme Court. So let's understand this in slight detail. How does this restore the federal balance? See, if you look at alcohol, it is listed under state subject. Under the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution, subjects are divided into union list, state list, and concurrent list. This marks out the jurisdiction of the union and the states. It provides for a good balance in our federal setup between the central government and the state governments, where states have their own jurisdiction, their own autonomy, and the center is not supposed to step into the domain of the state. It is this federal feature of the Indian Constitution which is one of the basic features of the Indian Constitution. So under the state list of the 7th schedule, we have entry number 8. Entry number 8, which refers to intoxicating liquor. So according to the Constitution, according to entry number 8 of state list of 7th schedule, intoxicating liquor was under the state list. It is under the state list even now, which means states have complete jurisdiction to regulate and tax intoxicating liquor. But however, the central government introduced a law in 1951, the IRDA, Industries Development and Regulation Act. Through this law, the Parliament tried to take over the regulation of industrial alcohol. The Union government tried to create a distinction between potable alcohol, which is consumed. So potable alcohol remained with the states. States could regulate and tax them, which is the biggest source of revenue for most state governments. They are heavily dependent on it. So states, according to the Constitution, should have regulatory powers over industrial alcohol as well. But the center had tried to take away this power through this law, Industries Development and Regulation Act, and it had brought industrial alcohol, which is critical for the Indian economy, under the regulatory powers of the Parliament. This had been contested by the states because, as I said, many states are heavily dependent on taxes, revenue collected through the liquor industry. Just look at the map over here. It's a very interesting map, very informative map. You can understand how states are heavily dependent on alcohol taxation, liquor taxation, to generate revenue, which is a key part of their revenue. If you look at states like Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, West Bengal, they have a more than 20% dependency as far as their revenue collection is concerned. Let's say these states collect 100 rupees in revenue. Out of 100 rupees, 20 rupees, more than 20 rupees is coming from taxes on alcohol. That is the extent of tax revenue being collected from liquor industry, from the alcohol industry. Many states in India are heavily dependent on it. This is the prime reason why alcohol taxation, it has not been brought under GST. Is that clear? So states have a clear jurisdiction with regard to potable alcohol. That is the alcohol which is consumed by humans. Alcohol which has a deadly health impact. Even industrial alcohol was supposed to be under the states, but the center which brought out the IRDA, it took over the regulatory powers of industrial alcohol, which is a major industrial input. In many industries, it is a key feedstock, especially in the chemical industry. It is also used in biotech, pharmaceutical industry, cosmetic industry, and as a liquid fuel to be blended with petrol. Correct? Ethyl alcohol is blended with petrol to make it more efficient and less polluting. So there are many industrial applications of industrial alcohol. So this also happens to be a significant source from where states can generate revenue. And Constitution is very clear. Entry 8 makes it clear it is supposed to be a state subject. But the center had taken over part of this authority. The center had taken over this jurisdiction partly through this law by bringing industrial alcohol under its regulatory powers. That is why the states were challenging this provision. That is why a constitution bench was needed to interpret this particular case. So a 9-judge constitution bench has ruled in favor of the states. The constitution bench is very clear that entry 8, which refers to industrial liquor or essentially all forms of liquor, it not only includes potable liquor, but it covers industrial alcohol as well. It is inappropriate for the center to bring out a law to take away this power from the state, which affects the federal balance. So it amounts for center's interference in the state's jurisdiction. So the Supreme Court has struck down this provision, thus bringing back federal balance and protecting the taxation and regulatory powers of the states over all types of alcohol. So this is the second time in recent months that Supreme Court has protected the rights of the state with regard to important sources of revenue. Just few months ago, if you remember, I had discussed and explained a related topic in complete detail when Supreme Court restored the taxation powers of states over mineral rights. Supreme Court had ruled in July that states have a right to tax minerals, regulate mineral-bearing lands, which had enabled states to generate more revenue, thus restoring federal balance, thus curbing the interfering powers of the center. So in a similar spirit, pun intended, Supreme Court has now again protected the revenue space of the states by interpreting entry 8 to be clearly under state jurisdiction, and center cannot interfere, cannot take away industrial alcohol and create a distinction within the category of liquor. So all types of liquor will now be regulated and taxed by the states, not by the center. So that is the significance of this ruling. That is what we take away from this important article. But however, there was one judge who provided a dissenting opinion. Justice B.V. Nagaratna was the only judge out of the 9-judge constitution bench who disagreed with the majority of the judges. Justice B.V. Nagaratna argued in her dissenting opinion that Parliament simply occupied the vacuum created by the states because states were not proactive in regulating industrial alcohol, and Parliament had simply occupied this field of fermentation industries, and thus Parliament was well within its rights to regulate and tax industrial alcohol. This is the interpretation of the minority judge, but majority judges have ruled in favor of the states and thus restored federal balance, which means states can exercise full jurisdiction as intended by the Constitution. So under entry 8, all types of liquor will come under the regulation and taxation powers of the states, thus curbing the interfering powers of the center. So you can expect a possible question either in polity or even in economy. Through its verdict on regulating alcohol, the Supreme Court has upheld federal balance. Elucidate. So a straightforward 10-mark question. Let's see how many of you can write an answer for this. So you can not only explain about entry 8 and why alcohol-related revenue is crucial for states, and also discuss the IRDA and what the Supreme Court has observed, right? How it has restored federal balance. You can even give an example that recently Supreme Court even recognized mineral rights of states, and states can tax mineral bearing land and regulate mineral rights. So you can bring in a comparison to show that you have wider knowledge, you are able to interlink topics. So you can point out how Supreme Court is bringing some federal balance in favor of the states, which protects the basic structure of the Indian Constitution. Now moving on to the next article. On page 8, we have an article related to environment and ecology. Please make a correction. The article is related to GS paper 3, environment and ecology, and even Indian economy. This article focuses on a new scheme which was approved by the Union Cabinet. In order to promote electric vehicles for public transportation, the Modi government has rolled out two important schemes recently. The Union Cabinet has approved PM E-Drive scheme, Prime Minister Electric Drive Revolution in Innovative Vehicle Enhancement. So PM E-Drive is an acronym, and somehow the Modi government has a liking for such interesting acronyms. So it stands for, you can expand this, it stands for PM Electric Drive Revolution in Innovative Vehicle Enhancement. The goal of this scheme is to provide funding and incentives to promote the adoption of EVs or electric vehicles, especially for public transport. Along with that, the government has also launched the PSM, PM E-Bus Seva Payment Security Mechanism, to provide additional financial support for introducing electric buses for public transportation. So these are the two new initiatives launched by the government. It has been approved by the Union Cabinet, and collectively around 14,000 crores will be spent by the government of India to incentivize the EV industry and the government institutions to adopt electric vehicles, especially for public transportation. Out of these 14,000 crores, around 4,390 crores will be dedicated for subsidies and financial incentives to encourage city authorities, especially your city-based transport authorities, to procure electric buses. Around 14,000 electric buses are expected to be rolled out in the country in the coming years by 2030. By the end of the decade, we are likely to see a significant jump in electric buses for public transportation. So if you want to promote electric vehicles, especially for public transport, you also need charging infrastructure, right? You need to incentivize the auto industry as well to match the demand and encourage the service providers, the public transport service providers, to procure more electric buses and switch towards electric transportation. So this is part of India's effort to decarbonize the economy, to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, on vehicles that are based on internal combustion engines, and switch towards battery-powered electric vehicles. So this is a very ambitious scheme of India, which is also part of our Paris Climate Agreement. Under the Paris Agreement of the Climate Change Convention, we have made certain important commitments, and it includes reduction of carbon emissions intensity and switching towards cleaner fuel, which also covers a switch towards electric transportation to move away from dependency on fossil fuels. So in 2015, the Modi government had launched a similar scheme called FAME India, Many of you might be familiar with the FAME India scheme, faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles. So this was implemented in two phases, FAME 1 and FAME 2, through which financial incentives and subsidies were given. Financial incentives and subsidies were given by the government to encourage the auto industry to focus on electric vehicles, to promote the design, production and rollout and adoption of electric vehicles along with the creation of charging infrastructure. So based on the success of FAME India scheme, now the Modi government has launched PM E-Drive and the PSM to promote the rollout of EVs, especially for public transport. So let us look at the design of the program. Let us see how the 14,000 crores are being allocated for different objectives. So out of these 14,000 crores, which is the collective budget for both the schemes, around 10,900 crores would be for PM E-Drive scheme. The cabinet has allocated close to 11,000 crore rupees just for the PM E-Drive scheme, which aims to provide more subsidies and incentives for the EV industry and encourage city corporations as well. Then under the PSM scheme, close to 3,435 crores has been set aside to support the procurement of electric buses for public transport in our cities. So total of 14,000 crore rupees will be used to fund both these schemes. Some of the funds will be used to create the public charging infrastructure. Close to 2,000 crores will be set aside for setting up the public charging facilities. Because see, right now, we have hardly few thousand electric buses in the country. Under FAME India 1, hardly 700 electric buses were introduced. And through FAME 2, we have around 7,000 odd electric buses in the country, right? Which is used for public transport. Problem is their charging infrastructure is located only in the bus depots. If you take the transport authorities of Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, these major cities have rolled out electric buses. Problem is charging infrastructure is limited only to the bus depots. You can't expect the buses to always go back to the bus depot for a recharge. You need public facilities as well, right? This is a key step in increasing the adoption of electric buses for public transportation. So that is why the government is setting aside 2,000 crores to create public charging infrastructure, which will not only help individuals to charge their electric cars and two-wheelers and three-wheelers, it will mainly help the public transport buses to be charged as well. And around 2,600 crores would be used to incentivize the two-wheeler and three-wheeler industry, to incentivize the automobile companies to design, manufacture more efficient and better EVs in the two-wheeler, three-wheeler category. 4,390 crores to be set aside for financing the procurement of electric buses, along with electric trucks, electric ambulances, which are to be used for public purposes. So, India's goal is to make a major shift by 2030 towards EV, not only with regard to privately owned vehicles like cars and two-wheelers and even three-wheelers, but even with regard to public transportation from buses to government-owned trucks to ambulances. So this is a mega initiative. This will boost the industry. The incentives will create a positive reinforcement for the auto industry to promote the adoption of electric vehicles. The creation of public charging infrastructure will also facilitate the adoption of electric vehicles, especially for public transport. But one flaw in these schemes, one shortcoming is that private transport is not included. That is, private buses, which account for a significant share of transportation today in our cities, they are not covered under the scheme. If you look across the country, you look at any major city, or you look at the intercity buses as well. Let's say the Delhi Gurgaon, Delhi Noida buses, Mumbai-Pune, Mumbai-Nagpur buses, Bengaluru-Mysore, Bengaluru-Chennai buses, majority of them are actually privately owned buses, which today are playing a key role in transportation and connectivity. Data shows that in India, only 7% of the buses which are running are in the public sector, owned by public transport agencies. 93% of the buses in the country are private buses. Thus, they form the most crucial link in transportation. But private buses, they will not benefit through the PM E-Drive scheme. They will not get any support under the PSM scheme. So this is a major shortcoming. The government has left out the biggest stakeholder. Because see, data shows that both intra-city and intercity transportation through electric bus is actually very profitable compared to diesel-based, CNG-based buses, right? Where the cost of fuel was much higher. Most service providers were incurring a loss, or they would barely make a operational profit, right? So when regular fossil fuel based buses were being used for intercity and intracity transport, most likely the business was a loss making enterprise. But now studies have shown, and the experience is also showing, that electric bus based transportation within a city or outside a city, right, can be easily profitable because of the lower cost, the lower per unit cost. The challenge here is to not only support the public buses, but even encourage the private industry, because private industry will have to play a pivotal role, as 93% of buses in the country are privately owned. So they are the backbone of bus-based transportation, not your public government-owned entities at the local level. So the article is correctly pointing out that even though it's a well thought out scheme, even though the intentions are great, the overall structure and design of the scheme looks very promising. One big shortcoming is that it does not provide any incentive, any financial support to private buses and private companies that are running buses in the country. So if this is corrected, and if incentives can be given to the private transport agencies and private bus owners, they will be encouraged to abandon diesel-based and CNG-based buses and switch towards electric buses, which can completely transform our transportation and connectivity. So that is what we need to learn. Of course, there are challenges over here. As I said, one is the higher cost. Electric buses are expensive, right? Usually electric vehicles, even two-wheelers, three-wheelers and electric cars are more expensive, given that they depend on lithium-ion batteries, which requires critical minerals. So the cost remains higher. So many bus operators, be it public or private bus operators, they are discouraged from procuring these more expensive buses. Also, the lack of charging infrastructure is a major roadblock. So if these hurdles can be solved through these schemes, and if even private bus operators are incentivized, then definitely India will be well on its path to see a complete transformation by the end of this decade. So that is what we take away from this important editorial. So please go through the key points which I have highlighted for your convenience. You can make a note of the key points, right, which have been highlighted here, color coded in the article, and directly use them in your answers. So I hope you have understood this topic in complete detail, because see, there is one interesting suggestion the writers are providing here. The writers are suggesting that maybe we should experiment with battery as a service. Just like you have software as a service, the SaaS industry. Similarly, we can breed and create a new industry altogether, the BaaS industry, battery as a service, where batteries can be swapped. In countries like China, where we have seen a major EV adoption from two-wheelers to cars to buses, China not only has built massive public charging infrastructure, but it has created battery as a service industry where batteries can be swapped. Basically, at every convenient location, you have these pool of batteries assembled. You simply have to plug in the battery and take the other battery, right? You take out the battery which is drained, which has been left with no charge, plug it for charging so that someone else will use it later. and you take another charged battery instead and swap it so that you can continue your journey. So battery swapping is gaining traction around the world. Even in Kenya, this model has seen a big success, and battery swapping and pooling of batteries can give a big boost for charging infrastructure. It will make it easier, convenient to just swap out the batteries and continue your journey without waiting for the battery to charge. So providing this as a chargeable service could completely transform this industry and increase the adoption. So these are the hurdles the government will have to overcome. One is the hesitance of the individuals and the organizations to adopt EVs. Second would be the higher cost, higher interest rates, and the short-term payment which has to be done for loans, which puts a financial strain on the bus operators, right? So these financial issues have to be sorted with some subsidies and support. Government can waive off the interest, give an extended loan period to reduce the burden on the bus operators, or work with automobile manufacturers to bring down the cost, the overall cost, by incentivizing the auto companies. So such initiatives can be taken up along with expanding charging infrastructure, and as well as by rolling out battery as a service model where battery swapping and pooling can be encouraged. So if you can remember this analysis, you can directly bring this into your answers, and possibly there can be prelims question based on this as well. So now let's quickly look at the prelims section. Today we have quite a few articles, right? But there are around, I think, 7 articles, very small articles, but it does give us valuable points for our prelims. So let's take a quick look. We have this article on page 7 related to security and even economy. The article is referring to cyber frauds which have been increasing in the banking sector of India. In this data point segment, the Hindu brings relevant data, presents the data in the form of graphs to help us understand the scale of cyber frauds which is happening in our banking sector and the vulnerability of India's banking system. So I believe that this analysis can be very relevant. You can use this data in your answers in mains. Maybe there can be an essay on cyber fraud, cyber crimes. You can present the data in such essays as well. Also, there could be a trend-based question in prelims. Like, which states in India are the most affected because of cyber frauds in banking industry? Could be a possible prelims question, right? Or is it private banks or public sector banks which are more targeted through cyber attacks and cyber frauds? So such trend-based questions related to current affairs can be given. So in this financial year, FY 2024, India has seen a major surge in cyber frauds in the banking sector. Close to 3 lakh cyber fraud cases have been reported. More than 2,000 crores has been lost. Cyber criminals have looted more than 2,000 crore rupees from the victims. So please remember the broad numbers. The most affected states are Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Delhi. Of course, Delhi being a union territory. So remember the top three states and duties which are affected: Maharashtra, then Tamil Nadu, and then Delhi. Then coming to the number of cyber attacks and the volume of money which has been stolen or defrauded, it is private banks which have seen an exponential surge compared to public sector banks. Even though private sector banks are expected to have better cyber security, they are falling prey, especially the customers are falling prey, given that they have a bigger share with regard to the high net worth individuals and the middle class and upper middle class of the country. The public sector banks have seen a relatively lesser proportion of these cyber frauds, but private sector banks have seen a significant surge in the number of cases and even in the money which has been defrauded, the total volume of money which has been lost to cyber frauds. So this is a trend and analysis that you can remember, based on which a possible prelims question can be given. Next, on page 11, we have an article referring to Aadhar based e-payment system, or just Aadhar based payment system. The central government has strongly defended the Aadhar based wage payment system under Manrega. See, under Manrega, which is an employment guarantee scheme, a minimum wage is guaranteed for a minimum of 100 days of work, and it has been a a flagship program of the central government, especially since the Manmohan Singh government, to create employment opportunities and increase rural income to boost rural demand. So this scheme has been a driver of socio-economic growth, right? It has even boosted demand in our economy. So recently, India shifted towards DBT model of payment for wages under Manrega, direct benefit transfer. Under DBT, the payment system which has been used to deposit the wages into the accounts of the workers is Aadhar based payment. The Aadhar, which was introduced again by the then UPA government, which has been linked with bank accounts and mobile numbers, creating the JAM Trinity, which is nothing but our digital public infrastructure. It has enabled our transition into a digital economy, thus bringing more efficiency into government-related public services and government payments. So Manrega workers are being paid their wages through Aadhar-based payment system. That is, every worker has to be registered. They should basically have a verified Aadhar connected to their bank account, verified with their mobile number. If there is any discrepancy, the payments are held up, right? The payments are not made because it is presumed to be a fake job card or a fake account, right? So this method of digital transfer of payments has been a game changer for the government to bring efficiency into government services and government payments. It reduces corruption. It reduces the chances of leakage and diversion. And it provides for speedy delivery of services and quick transfer of payments to the targeted beneficiaries. Even other schemes where scholarships, pensions are involved, other social sector schemes, even they are today based on direct benefit transfer, DBT, where Aadhar-based payment is being carried out. But however, critics have pointed out that many beneficiaries are getting left out because of the flaws in Aadhar-based payment system. Critics are pointing out that either there are errors in the Aadhar database, or they are not linked with the bank and the mobile numbers of the targeted beneficiaries. And as a result, the genuine beneficiaries are not receiving the payments, which defeats the very purpose of a socio-economic scheme. So this criticism has increased of late, and the government has countered the critics and it has defended the Aadhar-based payment system, pointing out that it has only brought efficiency into government payments. It has curbed corruption, leakage and diversion, provided for quick and fast payments, and ensured that the fake beneficiaries can be removed and eliminated, and only genuine beneficiaries can be accurately targeted. So that is the basic pointers that you need about Aadhar-based payment system. Next, on the same page, we have a reference to Nature Conservation Index, which has been recently published. Just a few days ago, a brand new index has been brought out for the first time. It's called Nature Conservation Index 2024. It has been developed by the Ben Gurion University, based out of Israel, along with biodb.com. It has been developed by one of the schools of sustainability and climate change under the Ben Gurion University in Israel with biodb.com. So this index, which has been developed, it is using 4 parameters to track the performance of countries with regard to conservation of nature and environment and biodiversity. The 4 parameters considered under this index includes land management, how forest land and ecosystems are managed, the threats present to biodiversity, both flora and fauna, the capacity and governance to restore ecosystems and protect nature, and future trends given the impact of climate change and global warming. These 4 indicators are used to track and measure the performance of countries and rank them. And 180 countries have been considered under the index, and unfortunately, India's performance has been very, very poor. According to the index, India's score is just 45.5 out of 100. So this gives us a rank of 176 out of 180 countries, making us one of the 5 worst performing countries, along with Kiribati, Turkey, Iraq, and Micronesia. The government of India has countered this index. Usually, we have seen this trend where the government counters any such foreign reports and indices which is critical of India's performance, which paints India's performance in bad light. India has a valid argument here that the methodology used in these indexes, in these reports, right, and the parameters which are used, the way in which the parameters are marked and the data is collected, it could be flawed. There could be an inherent bias against India. So India often rejects such reports and criticizes these reports as well and completely discards these findings. So opposition parties have raised a question mark. They've asked the government as to why India's performance is so poor. They've asked the government whether India will disown this report as well. So that's why the topic is in news. So please note down what is the Nature Conservation Index. There can be a question based on this. Note down the institution which has brought out the index, the 4 parameters, and India's ranking and score. This is more than sufficient. Now moving on page 12, we have a security related article where Prime Minister Modi has warned Indian citizens through Mann Ki Baat on digital arrests, which is a emerging trending form of cyber fraud. Many cases of digital arrests have been reported where victims have been duped of their hard-earned money by cyber fraudsters and criminals. Many of you might be receiving these fraudulent calls on WhatsApp, Telegram, and through various modes of communication, stating that there is a parcel in your name which has been confiscated by the customs because apparently there is a drug or an explosive or a contraband material. Or you might get a call saying that there is a bank account in your name which apparently has been used in money laundering and terrorist financing, and ED, NIA are investigating you. So the moment you get a call, right, you start panicking. I'm sure many of you would have received this because this has become a countrywide menace. There are organized cyber criminal cartels which are executing this massive crime. These are fake calls, completely fake, because no government agency will contact you. Not the IT department, not customs, and definitely not investigating authorities. Right? They'll not give you a phone call to say that you're involved in a crime. So these criminals convince the victims that they are genuine authorities and they pull them into a video call. Right? They even depict a police station like environment in the video call where the fraudsters are wearing police uniforms or bearing the logo of the investigating agencies. Right? And they carry out a harsh interrogation to threaten the victim, to push them psychologically, and they will force them to place them under a virtual arrest. They say that you are under virtual arrest, you can't meet anyone, you can't contact anyone else, and they will try to dupe them to reveal their personal details or push them to transfer money. They will say that if you pay 50 lakhs or 1 crore, I will wipe off this case. Or they will say we have to check whether your account is being misused for money laundering. So they will push you to go to the bank or ATM to make transactions. Eventually, they are looting the money. So many people, many educated people, well-aware people, even one IAS officer has fallen prey to this scam. So this is called a digital arrest. So given the rising trend of digital arrests in the country, Prime Minister Modi has spoken about this in Mann Ki Baat, where the PM addresses the nation through this radio address. And he has brought awareness about digital arrests. So please be aware that no government institution or authority will call you saying that you are involved in a crime or you've been arrested. These are fraudulent calls carried out by cyber criminal cartels, which are looking to dupe our people, right? So if at all you're a victim of, if you come across such crimes, you can report those crimes by calling 1930, which is a dedicated helpline number for cyber crimes, which has been set up by Ministry of Home Affairs, the nodal ministry to deal with cyber crimes at the level of the central government. So you can call this dedicated helpline number to lodge your complaint. There is a cybercrime reporting portal, National Cybercrime Reporting Portal set up by the MHA. You can log in to cybercrime.gov.in and register your complaints if you're a victim of such cyber frauds. So please note down these initiatives. There can be questions based on National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. In a related development, Indian Express has carried an article just yesterday, and I would like to bring this to your attention, that according to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, I4C, which is under the MHA. This center coordinates with state governments and state police to crack down on cybercrimes. They have brought out data for this year showing that Indians have lost 120 crore rupees this year alone through digital arrests. So you can understand how big a menace digital arrests have become. Indians have lost 120 crores to cyber fraudsters in just this year from January to April, just in 4 months. So easily the number could hit 1,000 crores plus in a year. That is why the Prime Minister also has spoken about this rising threat. In a related article on page 12, there is a reference to Cert-In. Cert-In is the nodal authority to protect Indian cyberspace, to defend Indian cyberspace against any cyber attacks and even cyber crimes. So Cert-In also has issued a public advisory. Given the rising number of digital arrests and cyber frauds, and given the Prime Minister's address, even Cert-In has issued a public advisory regarding this. So what is Cert-In? Cert-In stands for Computer Emergency Response Team India. It was established in the year 2004. It has legal status under IT Act of 2000. It is the nodal agency to monitor the cyberspace, to look out for any emerging malwares and threats and any vulnerabilities in hardware and software and in the networks, and protect the Indian cyberspace and defend the country against any cyber attacks. So Cert-In maintains a constant alert, provides early warning and issues advisories to the government, to the private industry and even to the public to ensure that cyber safety is promoted, the culture of cyber safety is promoted. It will also deter these attacks actively. It will counter and repel these attacks against Indian networks and Indian systems. It will try to develop counter strategies and solutions for new malwares which are emerging. So that is the role of Cert-In. Is this clear? So Cert-In is the nodal agency to tackle cyber crimes and cyber attacks and to defend the Indian cyberspace. Next, in another article, there is a reference to C-295 military transport plane. The C-295 military transport aircraft is one of the advanced medium-sized military transport aircraft produced by Airbus in Spain. So India had earlier signed a contract to procure around 56 C-295 aircraft for the Indian Air Force primarily, with some of them directly assembled in Spain and then flown to India, and rest of them would be built in India indigenously by Tata Advanced Systems Limited. So there is a strategic partnership with an Indian manufacturer where there is transfer of technology and in a defense plant in Gujarat, in Vadodara. So this Tata unit will produce these planes indigenously, thus leading to indigenous production. So now India has signed another contract to procure 15 additional C-29 aircraft from Spain through Airbus. Prime Minister Modi and the Spanish Prime Minister have confirmed the agreement that along with the 56 aircraft which we are already procuring, 15 more will be procured to meet the requirement of the Indian Armed Forces, especially the Indian Air Force. This will significantly enhance the airlift capability of Indian Air Force to move troops, to mobilize logistics and provide resupplies to the troops. C-295 would be very crucial in the coming years. Now let's look at the last article before we end the session for today. On the supplement page of the Hindu, we have an article referring to carbon credit and the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica. In the context of global warming, climate change, the article explains what is a carbon credit and it refers to the Thwaites Glacier. It carries an image of the vulnerable Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica. So possibly you can get a map-based question on Thwaites Glacier, where it is located, why it is in news, and also maybe a question on carbon credit. So let me explain this quickly and then we can end the class for today. The Thwaites Glacier, as you can see in the map here, is located on the West Antarctica ice sheet, and it is in news because it is one of the most vulnerable glaciers which is melting at a rapid pace. Scientists have predicted that in some years, maybe by the middle of this century, the Thwaites Glacier might completely break up and even completely disappear by the end of the century. The melting water is draining currently into the Pine Island Bay of the Amundsen Sea. So this large volume of water which is getting released because of the melting and breakup of Thwaites Glacier will significantly contribute to the rise in sea levels, which could potentially threaten many coastal cities. Coming to carbon credit is essentially a climate mechanism to encourage and incentivize the initiatives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to push towards clean energy. So those who put the effort to reduce dependency on fossil fuel and move towards clean energy, they can earn carbon credits. For example, let's say there is an industry, there is a thermal power plant. Thermal plants are based on coal. Coal is their primary source. If this power plant can optimize the technology, reduce the emissions, right? So it means the company has put in effort. It has put in investments to refine its technology to reduce the carbon emissions. So the company could be rewarded with a carbon credit. For every reduction of 1,000 kilograms or 1 ton of carbon dioxide, the company can earn 1 carbon credit, which is a tradable asset. It is certified by the RBI. And today we have a functioning carbon market, just like you trade stocks in the equity market. Similarly, carbon credits can be traded. So this becomes an incentive. So those companies which are investing in clean energy, renewable energy, those who are reducing their emissions and moving towards efficiency and decarbonization and net zero emissions, they can earn carbon credits, sell them to others who are breaching their targets. Other companies which are not meeting their emission targets, they would be made mandatory to buy the carbon credits, thus creating a financial incentive for the ones who are putting in that effort. So this market-based mechanism to bring down emissions and incentivize the shift towards clean energy is essentially the carbon credit mechanism. So on this note, I would like to end my discussion for today. I hope you guys have liked the session, understood all the topics. Now please let me know if you have any questions. I can look at a few questions before we end the class. And in the meanwhile, let me know how the session was, and do press the like button without fail. Sandhya is asking, carbon credits program is started in Delhi or not? Carbon credit is functional in India. The carbon market is operational in India, not just in Delhi. Priyanshu Saxena says, I think by using technology as we do with DBT, change can be manifested faster. And remember, we are only 75 years old independent nation. And I think we are doing good. Yes, absolutely. DBT is a game changer. As I told you, direct benefit transfer is indeed a game changer. It has brought efficiency into government welfare schemes. It has reduced any unnecessary expenditure, leakage and diversion and corruption. And it is helping the government to target the actual beneficiaries and to filter out the fake beneficiaries. Any other question? Great. So I hope the session has been useful and I hope you guys have liked it. So if you did, do press the like button. That is the best encouragement we can get. And also after the session ends, drop in your comments and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That is it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, take care. Have a good day.